Welcome to the Power of Your Voice podcast with your host, Johnny Gorky. You have the power to overcome challenges and fears. Let my voice and the voice of many others show you how to transform these challenges into opportunities. To learn more about future podcasts and read episode show notes, check out my website at www.thepowerofyourvoice.com.
This is episode 26, and today's guest is Filip, who is an entrepreneur and founder and CEO of ELA, Everything LA. ELA is a global creative advertising agency headquarters in Los Angeles, California. Andre founded ELA, Everything LA in 2004 to capture the spirit, culture, vibe, and attitude of LA, where many great creative ideas are born and where creativity, energy, and zest for advertising began. He oversees all aspects of the agency, including creativity, business strategy, culture, client service, and operations, and has played an integral role in expanding the agency's global presence. He constantly fuels ELA's talent to push boundaries, embrace bold ideas to deliver the most compelling business and game-changing creativity for leading brands including TikTok, Disney, Easterseals, PepsiCo, Thermando, and Western Digital. A creative visionary with a strong business acumen, his more than 15 years of experience in entertainment and advertising spans innovation campaigns for an impressive array of clients including HBO, Disney, Starbucks, Paramount Pictures, Universal, EA Games, NASCAR, Showtime, 20th Century Fox, ABC, Fox Sports, and Bravo. Andre also serves on the board of directors for Easterseals Southern California. Andre, you are the CEO of Everything LA, that's ELA, which is an incredible global creative advertising agency in Los Angeles, California. When you strip away the CEO, who is Andre, the individual? Tell us about your upbringing and how those experiences transformed you into who you are today.
Yeah, Johnny, thanks for having me on. That's a very good question. I think that, there's a lot of lessons as you kind of grow up that you don't realize that they're like maybe leadership lessons or things that you're going to apply in the future until you look backward. And, when I look back at a young age, I think I had an entrepreneurial spirit. My first company I started was at the age of 8, where I was, mowing. I was mowing neighbors' lawns and people in the neighborhood. But, it taught me a lot about rejection, because I literally went out, got business cards made. Well, my parents made it for me. And I went out door to door and I was selling my gardening services, and the name of the company was Youth Gardening. And, went door to door, and a lot of people said no. And some people said yes. And then I needed help. So I hired my first employee, which was my next door neighbor. And we made some money on the weekends. And it was, that was kind of a fun little thing that we did. And I think, another thing that, again, looking back now, from a leadership perspective, I didn't have a lot of help. Like, for example, in school, right? People ask their parents for help, like, hey, can you help me with this thing? And the answer was, well, I already went to school, you figure it out. And at the time I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. I felt like, okay, I'm not supported here. Like, what the heck, right? But what that taught me looking back was, tag, you're it. You need to be the one with the answers. You need to figure it out yourself. You need to be resourceful. So if you have a question, go find the resources, whether you find them within yourself, whether you go to a teacher or whatever. And looking back, it's like, I know, as a leader, you have support, but you tag, you're it, right? You have to make the final decisions. You have no one else to go to. So I think at a very young age, I was almost groomed unknowingly. I think it wasn't purposefully, to be a leader and to understand that you gotta make the decision, right, wrong, or indifferent, and you're kind of at this thing alone. And I think that I carried that through, and now it's just part of my genetic makeup, if you will.
Man, I love that. Yeah, and actually, I did the same thing, cut grass, and that's the thing. You knock on people's doors, you get rejected, but you learn so much by doing it, and what works and what doesn't work. Had you had somebody else knocking those doors for you, you wouldn't have learned all those different experiences that you learned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when you were a child, and especially knock on these doors, where were you able to
do that? What made you get motivated? And I'm sure, when you were a child, who was your mentor and who'd you look up to exactly? And why did you look up to that person?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, I didn't have traditional mentors like, oh, my father or my uncle or my whatever. I think that, I just pulled mentors from people that I thought were super cool. Like, depending on the phase I was in my life, like, oh, wow, look at that. Rocky Balboa is pretty cool. And Rambo's pretty cool. As a kid, you don't know these are like random people that you look up to for various reasons. And it's really interesting that you asked that because growing up, I have had mentors. I think Tony Steiniger, where I started my career at Steiniger Advertising, was a big mentor of mine in advertising and entertainment. I learned a lot from that man, and he really took me under his wing. And I think that now, as I get older and I run my own business, my mentors, are it's different. I would say inspiration and where I learned from, because that's what a mentor is, right? Someone who inspires you. Somebody that you can learn something from. And now, I realize that throughout my entire life, whether it be super young or to present day, I have people that inspire me from all walks of life. So it's not like, wow, this one big figure that everyone can point to. I find, learning and inspiration in sometimes everyday people, because it's a new perspective. It's something that you learn from. You go, wow, I could apply that. And I'm a big champion of philosophy versus practice. A lot of people know a lot of information that they read or they get inspired by, but they don't apply it. And I think that, being able to apply a few good things is better than knowing a lot of things that you don't apply to any of them.
Yeah, and that is so true. And it can be challenging for people to apply that. What techniques do you do that allow you to apply those different techniques that you learn?
I think being very, self-aware it's not necessarily a technique. It's just being real with yourself and not lying to yourself, and looking, taking the time to really look at like whatever piece of information that you think is great and saying, how can I apply that today? Or how can I, whatever that is. You can write in a journal, you can think about it in your mind, whatever that quote unquote technique is. But I think it's literally just taking the time not to acknowledge that the information is cool, good, or useful, but to take it one step further that most people don't take it to, which is like, but how can I apply it? Not how can people apply that, and that's such a cool thing, but how can I apply it? You see a lot of, even on social media, you see a lot of like very, very inspirational things that are being said, and you understand that it's cool, or a cool philosophy, or man, that's so true. But take that truth and try to apply it in your life is so critical to me. And whatever works for you, I don't think there's a formula. I think it's just whatever works for the individual person to try to take baby steps in applying maybe one new piece of information a week. It doesn't have, because we're so inundated by so many things, but something that kind of surfaces for you and saying, you know what, I'm just going to focus on that one thing this week versus trying to focus on 30 things today. And if I could just, and you constantly remind yourself to think about that thing, and hey, maybe I can apply it to this thing, or maybe I could apply it to this meeting, or maybe I can apply it to this problem. I think you're going to be in a very good place.
Andrea, I really like that, because that's the thing. You can read all these motivational books. You go on Instagram, you watch all these amazing videos, and it's like, this is great stuff. But if you don't take action, it doesn't really do you any good. But then too, it can become very overwhelming, because people like watch all this stuff and like, oh my God, I got to apply all this stuff. But as you just said, it's like, just apply one of those techniques, do really well, and you're already becoming successful because you're implementing those new techniques, which is great.
Yeah. And Johnny, to that point, I'll give you an example. On Sunday night, I was doing some work and I saw a quote. I don't know, it was a book that was on my desk in my home office. And I opened it up and I read a few things, and I literally liked this one little, like, it wasn't a quote, it was actually just a sentence. And I took out a Post-it note. I wrote it down and I put it in I have a phone cover case thing, and I put it in my phone, and it's been there all week long. And about 10 times this week, I've noticed it because it's a bright yellow thing in my black phone case, and I pull it out and I read it, and it reminds me that you know what, that was important to me on Sunday. I'm going to refer back to it because it's a really interesting philosophy that I want to apply.
I like that. And you wrote it down. So what exactly does it say?
Well, I can't tell you that. It's too personal.
Okay. So speaking of more motivational, hang out with great people, what are the types of people you hang out with, and what is like your everyday environment like?
Yeah, I hang out with very dynamic people, and it starts with the team at ELA. That's kind of my family, if you will. They're the people that I'm around the most amount of time with, and my environment is my great and fantastic team at ELA. I think that we have a very dynamic group of people. No individual is alike in both their personalities and their specialties, and we work so well together. And I think that's kind of my first kind of circle. And outside of that, I have a lot of great clients and great friends that again are of like mind, right? So even the friends that I have, we're kind of in this kind of business mode, bettering ourselves mode. We share like, hey, this happened with my company. What do you think? So it's almost like a mastermind without trying to create one, where we have similar interests. And that's kind of like the people I surround myself with. And of course, people that I admire. A good friend of mine was a former CEO of a pretty large organization, and I sometimes when I see him, I pick his brain on, hey, how did you solve this thing? Or he shares stories with me. And again, that goes back to the question you asked me before. That's where I get my inspiration, where you talk about to really cool people and you apply it, and it's like it's a fun. It keeps you on your toes, and it keeps you dynamic. But I think it's also reciprocal. I think I add value to the same group of people as well.
I love the fact that you employ people who are completely different than you. I think sometimes at some companies, people feel comfortable working with people who are just like them. But what can you learn from being around people who are just exactly like you?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I think, for us at ELA, we're very dynamic, and our clients have different needs. So it's interesting to be in a room with people that see things from a different perspective, because if everybody sees it one way, that's a red flag to me. Like, what aren't we looking at? So when you have a dynamic group of people in a room, people are going to push and pull and question and ask. And I think that's where the nuggets of genius come out of, not because the person with the loudest voice has an opinion, but it's because the collective agrees.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. So for anybody who might be listening to this podcast right now, who maybe owns a company and they're scared maybe to work with a dynamic team because they're so used to working with people just like themselves, how would you think would be a great way for them to implement that?
I mean, I'm a firm believer that, the tree rots from the top. So if that's an issue, it's because you have an issue, because you are getting in your own way, and because you have an ego that won't allow you to get people that challenge you, because you don't want to be challenged, because maybe you feel that that's diminishing to you, who you are as an individual on the face of this earth. I don't know, but I can tell you that if you want to lead anything, I don't care if it's a company or if it's a sports team or whatever, you need dynamic people around you, and you need people from different walks of life. It's not combativeness, it's growth. And it's curiosity, and it's trying to understand different points of view. I think that, my biggest advice is, if it wasn't your company, what would be your advice to someone in the same situation you're in, and what would you tell them? And the chances are it's going to be some pretty darn good advice you should take for yourself.
Yeah, that is definitely good. Thank you. So I want to go on the next question. So I know one of the things that you do at your company at ELA is you guys love to question everything with your clients. So during your morning routine, what questions do you ask yourself to get yourself prepared for the day? And what do you think about on a daily basis?
Yeah, you know what? That's a good question. So, in the business environment, questioning things is a little bit different than in personal. But what I constantly think about is the forward momentum, right? So you have to kind of have one foot in the present and one foot in the future. And as a leader, you always kind of have to play that balance where you're not so far up in the clouds where you're not grounded in anything that's real. But if you're too grounded in what's real, you can never shoot for the stars. And I know that sounds a little bit kind of like, cliche, but it's true. You got to really you got to learn the balance of not getting mired in what is, and so that you can have a vision for what can be, but not ignoring what is and doing the best with what you have to get you to where you are. And that's a balance that is trained over time with a hyper focus on who you are as an individual to kind of, going back to your earlier point, be a better version of yourself every single day. So the second part to your question of what do I think about? I think about like, how's today going to be the best day of my life? You know, how and can it be? And it's funny when you ask that, if I ask you, Johnny, hey, you know what? Today's going to be the best day of your life. I guarantee you, automatic response in your head is going to be, well, I don't know if it's going to be the best day. I mean, I have a podcast going on, and then I got to go to the gym, and then I'm going to have a lunch, and then I got to have some emails. And I don't know if that's the best day. And I say that because on the other, on one side is kind of like the life that you live. On the other hand is the expectation. And a lot of times people don't expect great things. They want them. I don't know one person that's listening right now that doesn't want something that they don't have. I don't care what that is. It could be a mate. It could be a freaking cheeseburger. It could be a company. It could be $1 million. It could be a red Ferrari. It doesn't matter. But they don't actually expect to get it. And so when you're in a constant mood of going back to my big point, you're locked into the present, you're locked into the future, you find that balance, but you're expecting the things that you want to manifest or you want to create or that you're focusing on to happen. Watch what happens. A lot of times people go, oh yeah, well, I want the red Ferrari or whatever that is, but I don't expect to get it. I mean, come on. It's like, so, okay, cool. So you're never going to get it because you're not expecting it. You're not working toward it. You're just kind of, it's a dream. So I think that, you know, kind of like, I don't know if it's on a daily basis, but you kind of have to, you gotta expect great things or get great things.
Oh, that's so true. It's like going back to school. It's like, you want an A. I'm like, I want an A. But I expect I'll probably get a C because the professor doesn't like me. And then when you get your report card, you're like, wow, I got a C. Well, you were expecting a C. You wanted an A. And that's why it's so important. You do have to expect something and don't get upset if you don't get exactly what you want because you really haven't put it out there.
Well, it's also a lot safer, right? It's a lot safer to not expect the worst and maybe you get something greater, right? Like, hey, maybe I'll get a bike for Christmas this year, but, you know, I don't know. I'm not expecting to get it. So that way you don't feel let down. You don't feel humiliated. Your ego's intact. Okay, cool. So that's not going to get you anywhere. You know, you got to be really comfortable getting let down sometimes. And people don't want to do that. They don't want to go out to the world and say, I expect X. Because if you don't get it, then, you know, you're going to feel stupid. You're going to feel less than. You're going to feel humiliated. You're going to feel like you lost. You're going to fill in negative emotion here. But when you get over that and you go, okay, cool, maybe I won't, but maybe I will. And that's the difference between, in my opinion, kind of like a winning mindset versus losing mindset.
Yeah, well, you have to have more detailed expectations too. You know,
I agree.
Yeah, for example, if someone's like, you know, I want to make more money. I expect to make more money this year. But what is that? I expect to make $100,000 more this year than next year. What is it? Be very specific.
Yeah, I agree.
One of the things I know that you do, Andre, is there's this big thing. It's so important for you to constantly give back. Looking back at your background, giving back is so incredibly important. Why is giving back to you so very important?
Well, I think it's important to everybody, and if it's not, it should be. I sit on a board of an amazing organization, which is Easterseals of Southern California, which is the largest. It's a nonprofit organization working with, you know, children and adults with disabilities. It's a great organization, and what's really great about Easterseals is that, you know, they're kind of on a mission to change the way people view and see disability, and so that's a mission that's bigger than me. And so I think when you find something that's bigger than you, that you can go out there and chip away at, champion, stand behind, support, I think that it becomes something that's motivating. I think that a lot of people, you know, I see it sometimes, and again, this is just a big blanket assumption. It's like they're giving back because they think they should, but not because that's something that they have their heart into. And so my recommendation is find something that you're passionate about. Find something that is bigger than you, not just a check, because a lot of people can write a check, $1 to $1 million, any nonprofit would say thank you. So the giving part and checking the box for your soul, cool. All right, I gave $100 and I give $100 every month and I feel good about myself and I give back. Absolutely. I encourage that behavior. I think it's great. I think it's an amazing thing. But to be a part of an organization like Easterseals Southern California, where you are passionate about what they're doing and you're trying to change the world's perception of something, that's huge. And then you start getting creative. And I think that that's also my advice to people in business, is find that thing that's bigger than the problem that's in front of you that you can change the world with. And because that's a different pace and a different momentum. So giving back to me is important, but it comes with the caveat of make sure that you're giving in a way that's right for you. And only each person listening can answer that. That's something that you can get seriously behind, where you can give not only just a check, but also your time to, and how you as an individual can fit into that organization and maybe add a little bit of value beyond maybe what's being asked of you, and to go above and beyond the act of service, to try to innovate, to try to change something. That to me is giving of yourself, which is giving of your talents, giving of your time, giving of truly who you are, and looking at yourself as someone that can improve something, not just give something. And I think when you take that improving and giving together, that to me is the spirit of giving back.
That's great. I love that you give back. And yeah, writing a check is an easy thing to do, but by actually going there, physically meeting the people that you are benefiting and helping those people, you get to experience the whole thing. You actually get to witness it. Now, you're a CEO of a big company and you're very busy. How do you even find the time to do that? Because, that's the thing. For some people might be listening, like, I got the money, I can write a check. That's easy to do. How are you able to find the time to help those people, actually go there in person?
Yeah, it's funny. As you kind of go through phases of life, you think that there's no way I can do any more because I'm so busy as it is. But I have news for you. We all have the same amount of awake hours, give or take. We all have the same amount of sleep hours, give or take an hour here or there, right? It's how efficient and effective you are with your time. And I think that, as you grow, as you evolve, as you take on more, there's no magic bullet for this. There's no, oh, wait, I use this really cool app and it helps me track my time and how I live my life. You just learn how to take on more. You learn how to make decisions quicker. You learn how to delegate and delegate. You learn how and when to dip into the details and then get right back out of them so that you can stay on course. That's called experience. So there's no tool for that. There's nothing that can replace that. There's no book for that. I think there's great ways that you can maybe get from where you are to a little bit better. But at the end of looking back, what I was able to handle at 25, in a day, I can probably handle today in an hour. That's because of experience, not because of an app.
That's amazing. That is great. So I want to go to the next question. So you once worked for the godfather of movie advertising, Tony Seiniger, who worked on projects for The Hulk, Jaws, and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. You later moved on to a different agency and then decided you wanted to start your own agency at the age of 24 years old. What shifted your mindset from being an employee to one of an entrepreneur to start your own business?
I think a lot of ambition mixed with being naive, and I think that being naive is a really good tool for entrepreneurs. I think that I see a lot of people that overthink, overplan, overorganize. They want to see it all because they want to know what's going on, and they want to let their friends, their families, and even themselves know that they have a clear path to success because everyone's going to be out there basically telling them that the world is against them. It's not as easy as you think. Are you sure you want to do this? This is going to be difficult. What if you fail? It's crazy. So to combat that, there's a lot of planning. There's a lot of process. There's a lot of that. For me, I don't know. I can't speak for other people. I mean, there's many paths to creating something. I only know one, which is the one I did. And that was with, I don't know what I don't know. So I kind of have a philosophy of jump off the cliff and grow, you grow wings on the way down. Who knows? I have nothing to lose. I'm young. This is the best time of my life. Worst case, I go back to working for someone. I was confident in my ability. So, I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know how to run a company. I didn't know how to, I guess inherently I had a lot of instincts that I think are just in me, from management to leadership to strategy, all of those things at the time I didn't know that I had to the extent that I have that. So I think that I had no fear of failure. I think, again, going back to the question of expectancy, I didn't expect to fail. I expected that things would work out, because why wouldn't they? Again, that's it's what's funny about that is it sounds naive, but it also sounds like it's just truth. And the truth is whatever you want it to be. So I learned a lot. And the funny thing is, and part of me still has that 24-year-old self in me where I still learn every single day. I absolutely don't think I know it all. And I'm not just saying that as a philosophy on a podcast. I literally learned something. I learned things from my team. I learned things from the world. And then I go back and apply it. So the young version of me is just, cool. All right, I'm going to do this because I think I can do it. And why not? I learned, the great thing was too, is that I didn't have too much experience. Too much experience would have made me do things in a certain way. What I did was I did things the way I wanted to do them, because why not? Like, I think this is right. And sometimes I fail, and I'm okay with that. And sometimes I won, and I'm okay with that too. Failing is part of the course. That's part of it. It's part of, you're going to be a baseball player. You actually fail more times than you don't. You play football. I mean, watch the Super Bowl. Hike, fail, fail. All they need is like 2-3 points, but they're failing their way to success. And I think it's easy when you talk about sports, because it's like, oh yeah, well, that's cool and that's fun. But I think business is a sport. I think it's a lot of fun. And I think people don't look at it that way because they have their entire life intertwined in it, their mortgage, their family. But most importantly, at the end of the day, it's their ego, and they get in their own way. So I think that, it's being fearless and just going for it.
Yeah, well, and sometimes the other thing too is people unfortunately worry about too much what other people think of them, and that's why they don't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't care what other people think of me, and I don't mean that in a rude way. It's not because I don't care about other people. I just think that it's okay. I'm okay if people don't like me, and I'm okay if people like me. Either way, I'm good with it because I'm good with me. And I don't really consider that. It's not because I don't have emotional intelligence. It's just because I can't let it get to me. What you think of me is not my business.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you really, really think about anything in life, it's like, think about when you learn how to walk, you fell down, you learn how to ride a bike, you learn how to swim. Everything in life you learn through failures, but you became better at it as you continue to do it. That's just how
Absolutely.
things work.
I mean, when you learn how, you just said it, when you learn how to walk, it's not like you stand up, you kind of fumble a little bit, you fall, everyone goes, oh my gosh. And then you're like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not going to do this whole walking thing. It's overrated. All of you guys are, you're like, I'm just going to be a professional crawler. That's it. Like, I'm going to crawl. It's too much. This doesn't make any sense. Everyone's looking at me. I feel like a failure. All of you guys are walking and I'm still freaking crawling. Obviously, I'm a loser. Everybody, like, that's what happens, right? That's how success is. Like, oh, oops, I fell. All right. So you might as well throw in the towel. Okay. You're a failure. That's it. For the rest of your life, you're doomed. Everyone's watching you. Come on. Let's grow up. Let's realize it's just like walking. You'll get better over time. Just keep at it. You'll be fine.
Yeah, it's all about consistency. Whatever you do, do not give up. So I wanted to go into the next question because this is very interesting because this is something that a lot of people avoid. So it truly amazes me how your approach is through business. So you approach it through the lens of chaos. Usually people avoid chaos at all costs. Why do you like this approach and how do you discover the juicy stuff through chaos?
Yeah, I think the last word there was the discovery, right? So it's not chaos for chaos sake. It's the chaos in order to get to discovery. And we believe, at ELA that discovery is hiding in the chaos. It's not with what you know, it's what you don't know. So you gotta, and that goes back to the philosophy of questioning things, right? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this thing in the first place? What are we trying to do with this product? Why are people going to care about it? And why wouldn't they care about it? It's looking at things and questioning, like, why are we going to do a commercial? What are we trying to get out of this commercial? Will people even watch this thing? We have a huge responsibility to our clients to ensure that we're being not just creatively savvy, but business savvy, making sure that, we are always looking at what's the best way to communicate or solve a problem. And a lot of times people don't go deeper than the surface level, even though they think they are. It's kind of like playing on the waves. Yeah, you can have fun there, and there's a lot you can learn there. But the more you dig, and the more you question, and the more you challenge, you're gonna see that some of those amazing nuggets, some of that amazing creativity, the answers and the solutions are really deep beyond the surface. So it's being holistic, and I think part of our philosophy is you got to have no ego in it, because the moment you are emotionally engaged in something and you go, wow, this is really cool. Oh my gosh, I think I figured it out. So the last thing you want as a human being is to challenge even that, because again, notice the through line here. Your ego's involved. You don't want to scrape your knees. You just figured it out. Why you're going to go and unfigure it out? I thought the whole point was to have a solution. Why? But yes, let's just say it's safe. We're going to put it on the wall. It's not going to go anywhere. We can always go back to it. But now let's break that and let's go deeper. Is there anything else? Are there things that we're not thinking about? When you map things out, this whole process is a very quote unquote chaotic experience. You have to go through the questioning, the pushing, the pulling, the waiting, the data, the information. It's a lot, but it's worth it because of the discovery portion. We believe that our job is to take something and make it better. And to make it better, you have to go through the process. And people aren't willing to go through that process. They think they are, but it's rigorous, because you got to be able to break things, scatter them into multiple pieces, and build it back up to something greater than you found it. And that takes a lot of tenacity. It takes a lot of patience, and it takes a lot of humility. It's difficult to have all of those things in one organization every single day.
Yeah, well, and that's why you definitely got to work with people who really think outside the box.
Yeah, you do. I think so. And it's okay if they're thinking in their box. It's just that when you have multiple boxes that are going at the same time, you get to something that is ironically outside the box. And I think, again, going back to earlier, dynamic people is where it's all about, and people that aren't afraid, and people that have something to say, people that have an opinion, people that don't have their ego tied in their opinion, but they have an opinion because they believe in something greater. And this goes back to the nonprofit Easterseals comment. When you find something you can attach yourself that's greater than even you, then you become irrelevant to the process. The process becomes what you're after.
Yeah, well, the thing is, especially because you're in advertising, you constantly have to do new things. You can't keep on doing, like a lot of people that just do like the billboards. You have to do something different, things that are creative, things that are unique.
Correct.
When I say this, you know who I'm referring to. Another one. I like that. We the best. Andre, you get to work with DJ Khaled. This guy is a fireball of energy and positivity. How does it feel being blessed to work with amazing and talented people?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think Khaled's a great guy. He's a great individual. He's created a great brand for himself. He's very, very talented. He's huge right now. His release of his album Father of Assad has been a great success. And we had the privilege of working with him with our client TikTok. Yeah, I think it's everyone we work with is awesome and great. I think he's a big personality, great to be around, and part of in the business, and we're part ad agency, part in the show business and entertainment. You get used to working with people like this, celebrities, various types of personalities, and various industries, from actors to musicians. But I think at the end of the day, they're all people. When you get to know them, it's great to work with Khaled. And we've worked with many other celebrities at ELA. across whether it be music or actors, athletes, etc. So it's part of the industry that I'm in. It's part of the show business and industry that I grew up in. So, to us, it's just another amazing opportunity that we're grateful to have, and we're also grateful to be in an industry that allows us to work with some greatly talented people.
So when you were a kid, did you ever think you'd get to work with the people that you get to work with today?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I thought about it too much. Again, it's, I will say this, seeing your billboard out in the world or a piece of content that was in your office, for the last month that you guys were building and creating, and seeing it out in the world never gets old. I think that we're, in some ways, we're little kids in candy shops that are just so excited. So I think we feel very fortunate and blessed to be able to be in an industry that allows us not only to express ourselves, but to work with some amazingly talented people on a daily basis and to create some really cool things that we can look back on and say, that was fun. That was amazing. We did something. We put our mark on a piece of content or on a consumer kind of behavior. So I think all of us that chose this career, this profession, we feel very, very lucky that we get to show up every day and kind of be rock stars in our own way.
Yeah, that's great. Well, the other thing too, I was thinking just now, advertising is always changing. Where do you think it's kind of going into the future?
That's a good question. I don't know where it's going in the future. I can't say, I think that, the core of communication hasn't changed much. It's, one human being trying to connect with another. That human being can be personified as a product, and that product is just trying to connect with another person. As technology emerges, I'm sure that people like myself are on that bleeding edge of technology and how we utilize it as a tool to help communicate pretty simple messages. I think that, messaging and human need and behavior, although it evolves at its base, it's been steady. I don't know how technology will evolve, but I know that our obligation, our responsibility is to continue to push the envelope, to continue to experiment, to continue to allow the guys that are coming up with some amazing technology and some amazing platforms like TikTok to enable them, to allow them to just kind of be out in the world and do them. And for us to be able to leverage that and be able to have further forms of expression of brands, of people. So I'm excited to see what the future holds because I don't know what it holds.
Yeah, well, I constantly keep on thinking about like AI stuff. Like, you walk in on the sidewalk in New York, and as you're walking by, there's things like reading your eyes, and it kind of knows you're shopping and all that kind of stuff. And based on who you are, those are the ads it like throws out at you because it knows your habits.
Sure. And all of those things are tools in a tool chest for an advertiser, a marketing company, right? They're not the end all be all. They're just pieces of a bigger puzzle. And so what we try to do is figure out what the big puzzle is and how we use technology in any form to be able to communicate that and act as an enabler for something bigger. And so we don't get too caught up in the technology and even the AI. It's just a tool. It's one piece of a bigger puzzle. It's not AI for AI sake or data for data sake. It's what are we trying to communicate and what tools are at disposal today to be able to effectively communicate that. If it's an AI thing, then great. Well, we're going to use that. If that adds no value and it's just technology for technology's sake, I'm probably not going to use that. And so it all has to make sense.
That's good. So if you could go back in time, when you were 24 years old and you were about to start ELA, everything LA, what 3 pieces of advice would you tell your younger self?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's the gap of my evolution is so big. It's like, because I kind of, again, going back to the theme here, it's like you keep learning and learning and learning. I think that when you're young, you have a little bit more, you don't know what you don't know, and you haven't been through enough life. But I will say this, every experience and every phase is purpose built. It's there for a reason. So I don't know that I would go and say change anything, because changing would be don't go through a step. And I want my younger self to fail. I wouldn't say, hey, you should probably do more of this and less of that. I would say do whatever you did, because all of those were lessons that you needed to learn, so that, because it's part of evolution. And so I wouldn't go back in life and say, hey, don't do this, always remember this, because that would be cheating the process. It's like the time machine, and I don't want the time machine. I want to go through the hell. I want to go through the wins. I want to go through the lessons. So I would say, whatever you're going to do, just go do whatever you think is best, and I'll see you on the other end.
I like that. That's good. Because honestly, usually when I ask people this question, there's always these different things that they change or would want to change. But people don't realize if you change things, you wouldn't be where you're right now. And I'll just give this for example. I once dated a girl, and that relationship didn't last very long. But had I not have ever been in that relationship, I wouldn't know my wife today, and we wouldn't be married and have 3 amazing kids. So yeah, changing our history, we wouldn't be where we are.
Yeah, that's the premise of Back to the Future movie, right? Like, don't go back and change anything, because you kind of rewrite everything moving forward, and you don't know that you're going to be any better off. So, and I think the pivot point of that question also comes from a purpose. Even though it's a genuine place, it's a place of regret, and I have no regrets, because if you were to look back and go, well, I probably would have, and I should have, and I could have, then you're in a regretful state of mind. And I don't have those regrets, because everything made me who I am, and the journey is what it's all about. It's not about the win. It's not about the loss. It's what you learned from it, or what you went through to win, or what you learned from the loss. That's all amazing life. That's called life. And if you want to go back and give advice, then you're cheating yourself.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I was just listening to something yesterday, and there was this guy who was supposed to go to this business meeting, and his wife's like, honey, take our daughter to school. And he's like, I got to go to work. I got to go to work. I got to do this business meeting. And she's like, please take our daughter to school. And he's like, no, I have to go to work. And she's like, I'm asking you this one time, please take our daughter to school. He decided to take his daughter to school. Because of that, he didn't go into the World Trade Center, and he lived. It's like sometimes in life we're put in these certain situations. It's like, don't have regrets, because everything really, really happens for a reason.
Yeah. Okay, I agree.
Andre, for anyone who's listening right now, who's maybe they're on the fence, like, I'm 24 years old, maybe I'm working at corporate America or whatever, but, I'm just not happy. I want to do my own thing. I want to start my own business, but, honestly, I'm a little scared and that kind of thing. What 3 pieces of advice would you give to that person? Don't
be scared. That's what I'd say. I mean, I get it. Yeah. You're going to be scared. And by the way, you're going to be scared every part of that process and that journey, no matter what. But, entrepreneurs and leaders kind of are used to what that feels like. And it's kind of par for the course. Again, it's like, I don't know, like fear and failure and all that. It's like, it doesn't faze you anymore. It just comes with practice. It's an exercise. It's a muscle that you exercise. So my advice would be, follow your heart and just take action. And you don't have to take massive action. You have to take baby steps. And I think that, that's how you get anywhere in life, right? You don't get to New York from California in a car in 5 seconds. It's 1 mile after another. And at every step you take, you get encouraged to take the next one. As long as you don't stop walking, you will get to where you want to go. So only you can get in your own way. But I would say, don't think you're going to boil the ocean all in one day. Just take one step that will lead you to the next step. That'll lead you to the next step. And if you can conquer the step, then you're probably going to win the entire journey.
And don't quit. Just keep on doing it.
Yep. Yeah. Chunk it down. Chunk it down. That's just chunk it down to its smallest pieces and say, what can I do today to get closer to my goal? Because when you look at an entire mountain and you're sitting at the bottom of the mountain, you're looking at the top of the mountain, you're saying, wow, how am I going to get up there? It's very intimidating. But if I said, all you got to do is put one hand here and your left hand here and your right foot there, you can do that. Okay. And then once you have your left hand there and your right foot there, you can go, okay, now what do I do with my right hand? Well, maybe that little rock right there looks good. It looks sturdy. You can grab that. Can you do that? Yeah. Well, guess what? 1,000 of those, you get to the top of the mountain. But you would have no clue how to get there from down there. So you got to go 1, thing after another little thing and after another little thing. And I think that's why people don't have the courage to go after it, because they don't even know how to do it. And my advice and my philosophy is, if you knew how to do it, you would have already done it. Be okay with knowing you don't know, but you do know what's right in front of you, and that you can do. And for that, if you have an excuse, then be okay with not being an entrepreneur, because not everyone has to be an entrepreneur, period. I mean, it's okay. But if you really want to do it, then prove it to yourself.
Yeah, and just as you said, one step at a time. It's just like climbing Mount Everest. You're not going to climb Mount Everest in one day. It's not going to happen.
Right.
And even if you could, you wouldn't want to, because of the effects of what could happen to a person.
Right. That's right. That's absolutely right.
And, of course, the journey, by taking one step at a time, by meeting different people, surrounding yourself with positive people, it's the whole process.
Well, again, you win the game by winning the inning, right? And so you gotta also make sure that you're congratulating yourself after the small wins. It's not about, it's every step. There's an opportunity to win the moment. I think that also keeps you self-encouraged to keep moving on to the next step.
I like that. That's good. Andre, for anyone who's listening to this podcast, what's a few things that you'd love for them to take away from this episode?
That's a good question. I think we've made some really, really good points. I think we've touched a little bit about entrepreneurship. So I think hopefully there's something there, and, some new habits, that philosophy versus practice that they can implement. And, I don't know. I'm so inside my own head. I don't know what people are going to get out of it. I think every person is a snowflake that's going to grasp onto maybe one thing out of 10 things we talked about, or not, and hopefully this was, if nothing else, this was entertaining.
So for anyone who's listening right now, Andre, how can they learn more about Everything LA, and where can they find you guys online?
Yeah, our website is ELA1.com. So it's ELA1.com. That's all of our contact information's on there, some of our work, some of our philosophies, and that's probably the best place.
And for someone who might be listening to this, like, wow, you know what? I could use a person like you. What are a few of the things that you guys do at ELA?
So we're a full service global creative ad agency. So that's, so anyone looking for a big brand campaign, when we're agnostic of media. So whether it be from a TV spot all the way to big global brand campaigns, activations, we do all that, and they can find out more on our website and also our Instagram, which is ELA Advertising.
I love it. Thank you so very much, Andre, for being on the Power Your Voice podcast, man. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thank you, man.
Hey, Johnny, I really appreciate it, man. Good talking to you.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Johnny here. Thank you for listening to the Power Your Voice podcast. I'd love to get your feedback on this episode and how it impacted you. If someone in your life could benefit from this episode, share it with them. Check out thepoweryourvoice.com to read show notes, leave a comment on the blog page, and to stay updated on all future episodes, subscribe to this podcast and leave a 5-star review. Thank you for your love and support.